We are now just over 5 months away from the official release of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker by director J.J. Abrams, that is all set and ready to end the sequel trilogy and the Skywalker saga itself. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. So one exciting aspect of Episode 9 is that we do know that J.J. Abrams has a big plan in place for Kylo Ren, is to make him a whole lot more evil than Darth Vader ever was in the original trilogy, at least for the first and second acts of Episode 9, before the spirit of Sidious and the Dark Acolyte come into play here. Now these past couple of weeks or so we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to one of the concept art descriptions, this is where things begin to get very exciting for Episode 9. Now specifically, it's described that shot descriptions consisting of Kylo Ren inside of his chambers during one of the opening scenes within the first act of the film. It's described that Kylo Ren is laying on a bed where he is said to be holding Darth Vader's broken lightsaber in his hands, where it's described that distant screams of Anakin burning on Mustafar from Revenge of the Sith are heard, causing Kylo to fall into a nightmare and creating a parallel of what Anakin went through in the prequel trilogy era. It's said that Vader's broken lightsaber contains a dark side energy and allows Kylo to enter some of Vader's memories during the sequence. It's said to be a moment when Kylo Ren eventually wakes up and sits up straight fast, where he is described to be out of breath, where he eventually looks down at what he was holding in his hands. The next describes Kylo getting back up and placing the broken saber on a shelf, where he begins to speak to the Vader helmet again, while holding it in one hand in a Shakespeare fashion. One of the pieces of dialogue that is planned to be used in the final cut is said to involve Kylo promising that he will not make the same failure that Vader did, which most likely implies falling to the light side of the Force. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, we do know that the whole entire Kylo and Vader dynamic is going to be taken to its maximum potential in The Rise of Skywalker to really show us how dedicated he really is to his grandfather's legacy, and how dedicated he also is in order to fill in the failure of Darth Vader. So the thing about Kylo Ren, him being the grandson of the Sith Lord that lived throughout the ages, we do know that J.J. Abrams wants to make Kylo a very complex character in Episode 9, since there is of course going to be a lot of variables here as to Kylo Ren turning to the dark side even more so, and eventually landing into yet another conflicting moment where he meets the dark side character, also known as the Dark Acolyte, that is controlled by the spirit of Sidious. However, within the first act, during this opening sequence, it's said that he is holding the broken lightsaber of Darth Vader during his sleep that actually makes him fall into a nightmare where he is able to enter distant memories of Darth Vader, one of which is of course him hearing the distant screams of Anakin Skywalker burning on Mustafar. Now, this by far is very interesting, and it may very well explain as to why Rey was able to hear and see visions of the past of Luke's life, as well as other characters in the Star Wars franchise. It's that this lightsaber itself that once belonged to Darth Vader holds a dark side energy. Now, what's really interesting about that is that the same exact thing could very well actually follow for what Rey went through when she touched the Luke Skywalker saber and she was sucked into the Force-back vision. So within his chambers, I don't know if you guys knew this, but the chambers are a location on board of Kylo's First Order Ravager ship in Episode 9 that is said to be larger than the Supremacy, which belonged to Snoke in The Last Jedi. But within that ship, he has his chambers, and in there he eventually speaks to the Vader melted helmet once again, this time in a Shakespeare fashion, where he's holding it in one hand as if he is doing something around the lines of to be or not to be, right? So what I like about that is that this is JJ getting very artistic with, of course, Star Wars, especially with Kylo Ren, and really kind of going back to his roots of his original ideas from The Force Awakens. You guys may recall, there was an original idea of Kylo Ren holding the Vader helmet in that fashion for Episode 7 that never made it to the final cut of that movie. So how he's still talking to the Darth Vader melted helmet. Is he crazy, or is there an actual voice reaching out to him? Well, as we went over just a couple of days ago, through one of the revelations, it's actually the spirit of Sidious talking to Kylo Ren and not Darth Vader himself. Now, that's a very interesting twist because this is Palpatine pulling the strings, even after death, by controlling one of the Skywalkers. Now, what I like about that is, of course, Palpatine also hiding his identity. Now, we do know that Kylo Ren knows little to nothing about Lord Sidious. Snoke told Kylo Ren very little about him, and we will be learning more about Kylo's knowledge on Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker. So, the last piece that I do want to go over is, of course, how J.J. Abrams really wants to make Kylo really connected to Darth Vader in the form of a figurative ghost. And I think what's great about that is that you're really paying great homage to the character of Vader. At the end of the day, he really is the main character of the Star Wars franchise. You know, I think that 90% of fans, whenever they think about Star Wars, the minute they think about that, they think about Vader. It's just such an iconic character in pop culture, and it's been around for decades upon decades. So with that being said, guys, let me know what you think about all this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.